Let's just go ahead and talk about DeMarcus Lawrence. RJ came into this game with no pressures. No pressures. In the first 2 weeks, he was torching the rookie Evan Neal on that right side for Daniel Jones. 4 early pressures. He had 2 sacks in the first half. He got number 3 against Neal to open the third. Had the left foot injury. We're like, uh-oh, there you go. He's gone for the game, but he was able to return. Part of a Dallas defense that pressured Daniel Jones 24 times. That's the official number.
Is that a lot?
24 pressures. That's the most that Daniel Jones has ever seen in his career. 5 sacks and all for the Cowboys D. Give props to Dorrance Armstrong, Jerry Jones's crush. He had the blocked field goal. He had a sack that was taken away because of a Donovan Wilson penalty. Micah Parsons was clearly limited last night. When I saw him starting off a drive over on the sideline, I was like, okay, this congestion issue, whatever he was dealing with, as I guess he tweeted out a picture of Jordan with the flu game that slowed Micah down a little bit. But this entire defense from Dan Quinn made life miserable for Daniel Jones.
Well, I mean, they paid Tank what $90 million or whatever for a reason, and last night he showed why. That was a phenomenal game from him. And part of this is, you could give some credit to Micah. Micah takes some pressure off him, taking some attention on the other side or on the interior, wherever he's coming from. He's going to take a little bit of pressure off. I think more pressure off when he's coming from the outside because they're gonna put the running back or an extra tight end over there, whatever it may be, and Tank is able to reap the rewards. Look, he got paid for a reason. He didn't get paid because he can't get to the quarterback. He got paid because he does. And there's just so much attention put onto him. And I know it's easy for these dopes to say, well, you just got to get through it. You got to get through the pressure. You got to get through the double team. Well, no, it doesn't work like that. You don't just get through double teams unless, you're an all-time great. He's not an all-time great.
All right, let's take this to coop time, crunch time, whatever you want to call it. I was scared over the spot. I was like, did that definitely make it as a first down? Are they going to shut the game down? Are they going to stop it? I think the Cowboys went high tempo to run their next play, but the shot, the toughness that CeeDee Lamb showed. See, my issue with him in the first half wasn't even the drop. It wasn't the first drop. Where, by the way, looking at the replay again, I don't think he scores because of the angle of the defender. It was the second drop. It was the one where the ball was tipped and CeeDee pulled up, and he was scared. He was scared of the contact, and man, did he infuriate Tolos with his smile after the drop. That's an overrated reaction from the Tolos, which we'll get to in a second. But I had a problem with him pulling up because that probably could have given Maher a shot to kick. Joe Buck was very surprised that they did not attempt the long field goal with Maher because Brett, throughout his career, he can bomb from that deep. He's hit over 63 times. And instead, CeeDee drops that one. The ball's on the 35. They punt versus a 58-yard attempt. He catches that football. They're probably attempting a field goal, and then they didn't gain any yards because the punt went into the end zone. So it was a touchback. They were limited with the net yards gained on that. But that's where I was impressed with CeeDee Lamb's toughness. That 4th and 4 catch where he got freaking popped.
Yeah, he did. He did get popped. And I couldn't believe that they gave not that they gave the forward progress, just that he was that far past the line. He was clearly past it. But he definitely deserves a star up. For his ability to bounce back from that drop. There's no doubt about that.
Everyone's going to focus on the touchdown drop and then the smile. I'm focusing on the tipped drop where I thought there was a lack of toughness and then the definition of toughness on that 4th down conversion. So star up for that.
Speaking of the 4th down, star up, Mike McCarthy, who was the number 1 star up for this game. He single-handedly won this football game for the Cowboys.
What? Number 1?
Going forward on 4th and 4. And let's not forget, before the half, he could have sat on the football. He's got a backup quarterback. There was, 10 seconds left?
Okay, are we talking about when the Giants had it? And then
the Giants went forward on 4th.
Okay, so this was going to be a star down for me, actually. with McCarthy's decision to call the timeout for the Giants, right? It's 4th and 2. You're talking
about right before. Okay, 4th and 2 right before the half.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my worry was it looked like the Giants were going to burn off more clock. It looked like they were just going to let it run. And correct me if I'm wrong with the details of this. I'm a little bit foggy with the 4 hours of sleep, just like you guys are. But I was like, I don't know if I like this timeout because you're giving the Giants more time for an easily converted down. 4th and 2, I assume you're going to convert that. So they burn the timeout. It ends up working because Daniel Jones throws incomplete, and the Cowboys have 10 seconds left to get that playoff, and then the field goal attempt. Is that the series you're talking about right before the half?
Yep. So by calling that timeout,
yeah,
he gave the Cowboys a chance to get the field goal.
Yes, but I was playing the odds of the Giants converting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
4th and 2, I'm like, they're letting the clock run down.
Right.
They're letting the clock run down. Don't give them more time and more plays by burning your timeout.
Right, but I understand that. But what he did, though, by calling the timeout with 10 seconds to go, that would have put the Giants in a real tough spot to be able to get a playoff, call another timeout, and get enough yardage to have time there. Right? So like it was 10. So he was giving himself basically a chance. He wanted to give the Cowboys a chance to get the field goal, and he did. This was a masterclass in game management and coaching on those two spots for Mike. The 4th to 4 that won the game. Right? They don't convert that. Who knows what happens in this football game?
Oh, the 4th to 4 to me was a no-brainer.
No-brainer.
You had to go for it.
Yep, I totally agree. And then I love the basically coercing the clock into getting a free field goal attempt right before the half, even though it didn't work.
Yeah,
they didn't make it. A lot of coaches, when they get the ball back there with a backup quarterback in, instead of taking a chance at a turnover, at a strip sack, whatever, he went for it. He put some faith in his player, and he went for it, and they got, a dozen yards or so, or a handful of yards, and they wind up getting.
And I thought I heard this stat. I texted it to my Meatball New York friends, and of course, they went dead silent. The Giants haven't scored points in the last 2 minutes in 19 straight games. Like last 2 minutes of the first half, they have not scored in 19 straight games. What? So that's like a lack of offense, maybe a lack of game management, and they didn't get points in that situation. Star up to that Cowboys run game. Tony Pollard's got that juice. Brian Broaddus was giving a lot of props to Kellen Moore in the post game for figuring out this running back balance now. More touches, we all wanted it, right? Zeke had 15 carries, Pollard had 13. When I saw Zeke pull himself out of the game when the Cowboys were down in the red zone, I was like, okay, Zeke is fine with a carry share. He's fine with it. He got paid his money, and he is fine with TP getting his run. Pollard, 13 for 105, 8.1 per touch. Zeke, 15 for 73, 4.9 a touch. Pollard's longest run was that 46-yarder, and Zeke's longest run was that 27-yarder. But I gave a star up to that run game in that first half with a nice job against that Giants defense. And Jason Peters comes in, and on the first play, he sets up the big block to spring Tony Pollard at the age of 40.
I was driving in, flipping around, and there was like an NFL wrap-up show, and the great Willie Colon, remember him, was on
Steelers.
It was on. He said Peters had a great game. Had just for a guy playing his first game of the year after not having training camp, he was a menace.
And that was their longest play of the season. As he came in and played left guard.
Wow. Yeah.
That's a big-ass left guard.
Dude, he's a huge human being. My goodness.
And did you see him with the tips to the youngster after the game? You got to see this. I retweeted it at 1053SS. When the two sides started tussling afterwards, there's a shot of Jason Peters next to Tyler Smith, and he seemed to tell him, put your helmet on. If things are about to go down here, put your helmet on. I'm a vet. I got all this experience and age, and we're not going to be sitting here. We're not going to be swinging, and we're going to have protection with the helmets if stuff goes down. So it was kind of like young Simba getting taught right there the old tricks from the vet as Jason Peters went in for Forniak early in this game, and then they busted one with Tony Pollard. So star up to the run game.
What is your confidence level in Cooper Rush? And I saw somebody immediately say a 6, just like it was with Dak. And that's one of the things that we've been kicking around. Is like, not just to start a quarterback controversy, but to get the specifics of why that wouldn't happen, or why maybe when you reevaluate, you think it should happen. That was the question to Steven about what Dak does better. The biggest thing is, like, I know Dak can survive an NFL season, like, for better or worse, and I know there'll be some ups and downs. For Cooper Rush, it's been amazing, but it's been 3 games. And I think the most points they've still scored is 23, right? And that was yesterday. So
nobody scored 23 against the Cowboys, though.
Oh, because our defense is awesome. So that's just my concern is how will that evolve for games, for the whole season, for whatever?
Quick question. I saw somebody on Twitter. I think they tweeted Sean and me this morning and said, if Dak plays that game, Cowboys score 40 last night. Do you believe in these 2 games that the Cowboys, if Dak was quarterbacking against Cincinnati and quarterbacking against the Giants, since you said they only scored 20 and 23, how many points do you think they would have put up if Dak would have played those 2 games?
Yeah, and that's the thing about...
That's a tough question, man.
And that's the thing about Dak destroys the NFC East. And so I get it last night more than I do for the Bengals game. And like,
so how many points did they put up last
35.
Night?
Probably something like that. And so that's a big bit of difference. But if you're Cooper Rush, wouldn't your argument be, hey, I'm a CD and a Tolbert drop away from maybe being in that vicinity?
Yeah.
You know, but we've seen that Dak can feast on the NFC.
Yeah, that is a very difficult question to answer, especially considering, Mike, the first game we saw of Dak this year was miserable.
Awful.
And then, but you look back at the history of Dak against the NFC teams. Let's see what the history of him against New York Giants is too. And I know this is the new Brian Dable era, but I don't know how quickly Dak could turn around from week 1. I feel like after a week 1 miserable outing, things would have been very different in week 2 and then in week 3 as well. But I think that Dak would have done pretty well. Probably, I could see the 30-point range too. But I'm also, man, I got a lot of curiosity when it comes to Noah Brown and Dak's trust in Noah Brown.
That's a great point.
As Mickey said this morning, he and Cooper Rush have a connection because we saw them do a lot of work together in camp. And I did see Noah Brown make some good catches from Dak in camp also, but I just don't know what the trust level is. I'm going to put it in your hands. You're going to catch it.
And I would be really excited to see what happens going into the Commanders game if Schultz and Gallup are both good to go. I know Steven's like, oh, it's really earlier in the week. We'll see that. But then he did, to be fair, also say, we kind of thought they would be good to go for this week. So I would be really intrigued. Cooper Rush goes out there. Schultz is healthy. Gallup's healthy. CeeDee's not dropping the ball. Tolbert's not dropping the ball. You have that rapport that you talked about with Noah Brown. I don't ever want it to say that evolution only happens with the defense. I think that's always unfair. Who's to say that Cooper Rush can't figure out more about himself as a player going forward? He could get better too.
He seems very calm, very poised. Like that's the thing that there are times when he throws that I'm like, did he just throw off his back foot and back up as he threw a deep ball? It was weird, but he still connects on it. There were a couple moments last night, Kevin, that I think that the referees really want back. And that was one. I mean, both of them, weren't they both harassing Noah Brown? One in the end zone and then one. There was in the second one, Kevin, late in the game. Noah Brown's got his hands up. Like, where is the flag?
Right.
Cooper Rush has got his hands up. Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore both have their hands up, and you can see Kellen Moore. You can read his lips. He goes, "What was he looking at?" Speaking of the referee, and the referee comes to the sideline and he looks at him and goes, "What were you even looking at?" And you could tell they were just like, how do you miss those calls that blatant?
I thought that part was hilarious because Troy Aikman is just chuckling. And he goes, I guess I'll turn it over. And the rules expert is like, yeah, that was pass interference.
It's pretty clear.
Like, it took a half a second because they were just, yucking it up. But like,
that could be two touchdowns right there.
No, absolutely. It's just, I want to, that's why I wanted to dissect this from a couple of different areas, because I feel like, and somebody said this earlier, I don't know if I 100% agree with that, but I feel like the nature of it is you give Cooper Rush the benefit of the doubt and not Dak. And so I'm just like, well, let's just play both of those out. But people are stoked about it from the 682. Cooper Rush, I'll give a 6. They said Dak 7. Confidence level in Cooper Rush, a 6. From the 817, confidence level, a 10. And from the 214, is this the Cooper Rush segment? Yes, it is. This is the Cooper Rush as part of the Expressway.
Yeah, he made some very fine throws last night.
Man,
like, don't discredit the fact that he made some very fine throws.
That 4th and 4 throw.
Yes, to wide open receivers, but also he made some very tight throws where, Mike, to your question, there are times when I'm curious if Dak would be willing to throw into some of those spaces, or if he'd be more willing to say, I can use my legs or check down. Either way, Cooper Rush felt confident, and he trusted the players to catch those passes. And that specific play that you're talking about, Kevin, is the CeeDee Lamb fourth down play where he gets the first down. But you even keep crediting the coaching staff, the entire team, for saying, hey, we need to hurry up to the line and just get this play done with, because we don't know if it was or not, but it was close enough for them to say, hey, let's look at it.
In real time, immediately it was like first down. Then they showed the replay. I was like, holy crap. I think it's probably still first down. And then they snapped the ball immediately. Props to Cooper Rush. His pocket awareness, I thought, was top notch in that moment, because the heat was coming and he got rid of the ball. They seemed to know exactly where to get to. I thought that play was spectacular. And it was a play that kept the drive going that clearly you needed to keep the drive going. So I thought that was super positive as well. I think Cooper Rush has done a really good job.
There were times in the game where I thought, oh, they'll run the ball here. This is what the Cowboys would do because they don't trust Cooper Rush to make this throw or to complete this. They did. Like Kellen Moore was like, no, we're going to push on this. We're going to make these throws, and I trust that the quarterback's going to deliver. And if he doesn't, Traitman said it last night, if you don't do the job and win some games while you're the backup quarterback, the team's going to start looking and saying, we need a different guy.
Yeah.
And so like they gave him the chance to, fail or succeed, and he succeeded in most moments last night. Now, moving forward, I think a lot of people were going off of Cooper Rush had a very bad first preseason game and never really separated, in my mind, himself from Will Grier that much.
Yeah. If Will Grier didn't get hurt, this could be a totally different story.
At one point, I really did think that Will Grier was going to take the spot from him. So Noah Brown and Cooper Rush both see an opportunity. Tyler Smith saw an opportunity. Steven just told us this. A lot of these guys, they're getting their chance to play, and they're saying, all right, I'm going to take advantage of it. This is like the argument we've been having with Zeke and Pollard, right? Like, why not give Pollard more opportunities if Zeke's not going to be able to go for 8.1 yards per carry? Then why not give Tony Pollard that opportunity? And they're like, oh, it's because we have Zeke. But now here the Cowboys are in a situation where a lot of guys, they needed them to step up, and they have. So that's a good positive thing for this team right now, as you're still waiting for other pieces to come back, and then you reshuffle the deck and say, now what do we do from here?
And to go along with all of this, I think the biggest thing is you don't need certain levels of things from Cooper Rush, because then the question becomes, can this defense carry you to the playoffs? And I feel emphatically yes. We talked about that earlier when Mike was asking all the football questions and saying, like, what could get the Cowboys to the playoffs. I think they have an elite defense, or the potential for an elite defense. And so I absolutely believe that solid, if not good play from Cooper Rush and an elite defense can take you places.
Is that where we are right now?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So last week, I believe in the C block, I went through kind of looking at the 92 Cowboys and trying to compare them to that defense and what that defense accomplished and what this defense is on pace for right now. The number of sacks, Kevin, do you have the number of sacks the Cowboys have at the moment? I think it's like 15 or 18, something like that.
Wow.
They lead the league right now in sacks.
And last night was also the most pressure put on a quarterback by any team this season.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So the pass rush up front is something we've been going, man, this you watch other teams and you're like, how do they do it? We never have that kind of pass rush. And you watched it last night, you watched it last week, and hell, watch it this next week. I mean, Mickey said that this morning too. Against Washington, you're going to have plenty of opportunities to say, go get them. And so that number could go up even more, and you'll be looking at it by the end of the season going, and this team was really effective with the pass rush. Did it have as many turnovers and interceptions as it did last year? That's still yet to be seen because we only have, 2 at this point?
Right.
So, there's still a lot of work to do there. But if you're effective in getting the pass rush and holding teams under 20 points, man, this elite is the word you're using right now. And I figured they'd be a top 3 defense by the end of this year. They're already there in my mind. And as one of those defenses that you just don't want to play. They're not giving up points. Did they let anybody? They didn't let the Giants in the red zone. The only time that they got in was whenever Barkley scored. That's awesome. That happened to the Cowboys on the first game of the season. We were like, ugh, that sucks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so people are now mixing in confidence level in the defense with confidence level in Cooper Rush from the 214. Cooper Clutch, comeback player of the year, confidence level 10 out of 10. I did see something that was amazingly fascinating, and I get it. It's not that Daniel Jones is now 0-9 in primetime games. I think he gave Kirk Cousins a run for his money. Is Cooper Rush is the first player since the merger in 1970 to lead 3 fourth quarter or overtime game-winning drives in his first 3 career starts. Just think about it. Every time in the fourth quarter or in overtime, they have taken the lead on a Cooper Rush drive in his first 3 starts. That's never happened in the merger era for the NFL. That's impressive. Like, whether or not you think that's going to carry on and he's going to do this or defenses are going to adjust, that's pretty impressive.
I think a lot of the fan texters think I'm always, skeptical or cynical about this football team. And if they think that, they're probably right. Especially over the last couple of years, I've just become beaten down by this approach, and I've become convinced that it's not going to work, okay? So, we really saw 2019, 2020, 2021. Let's pass heavy with Dak. Kellen Moore was brought in, and it hasn't come together. Like for some teams, they can make it work. For this team, it hasn't. And since that began to transpire, my faith they could win playoff games has plummeted. And you've heard me say it, and you're like, oh, you're so negative. But I'm 100% right. I'm not wrong, as Brian Broaddus would say. I know how these things are going to play out. You're not going to be good teams. You're going to lose in the playoffs. You're going to have a fun regular season ride, and that's what I've been expecting. But last night, by golly, a spark of hope was reborn in the back of my brain, okay? I'm starting to look at these guys like the 49ers. And whether the quarterback is named Dak or Cooper Rush, it might as well be Jimmy Garoppolo. They play about the same. And what you're going to be looking at is an elite defense and a running team, and hoping to be opportunistic. And the way I look at this NFL is you need to be really good from the pocket to give yourself a great chance to win the Super Bowl. But the way to counter that is if you can play elite defense, not just pretty good. It's got to be like in the conversation for the best defense in the NFL. I think the Cowboys are there. And you got to be able to run the absolute crap out of the football. And I think everybody they brought in on defense, it's really coming together. This thing is starting to look damn scary for most of the games. And their decision to not keep Zeke out there like he's the bell cow, right? Now we're balanced. Now it's Zeke and Pollard. So all your frustrations about the running game and about it not going to the right guy and Dak Prescott not being a good option to pass it all the time, like all those things are being put to bed right as the defense is emerging, I think. So are you like me where, you're starting to say, hold on, I thought about this Cowboys team in the context they were going to keep trying to pass the ball to victory like idiots, even though it hadn't worked for the last 3 years. You can't pass the ball against good teams with this offense. Now, like Tyler Smith, and then here we go. Here comes Jason Peters. And I don't know what configuration they're going to put it in, but they plan on Tyron Smith coming back, right? Yeah. And whoever's going to be at right tackle, props to Terrence Steele for not being a total dumpster fire the last 2 weeks. It's nothing compared to Jason Peters, Tyler Smith, or Tyron Smith, whoever you put out there, at least in the running game. Now I have 4 absolute horses, beasts, right? Four guys that can look across that line of scrimmage and crush in the run game, whoever it is. Will Tyron give up a little bit of pressure because he's too old? Yes. Will Jason Peters lack flexibility? Yes. Will Tyler Smith have some bad games against elite rushers? Yes. But when they're running the ball, it is going to be advantage, old man strength, and young buck with Tyler Smith. So are you guys with me at 877-881-1053. These things have fallen together, and maybe the Dak injury has pushed them back towards the running game even more. They talked in the offseason about, you can't have that good of a defense again. It just doesn't repeat like that. You can't get the turnovers. Well, guess what? Now they're playing amazing defense without even getting the turnovers. So it's falling in place to be, what do they say about what wins in December and January football? Defense and running game. And how sick would it be if this is finally the team that, makes its way to the NFC Championship game? I'm not thinking Super Bowl, because I do think you need to be able to pass the ball incredibly well from the pocket in order to win those final 2 games. But damn it, I can see it. I can now start to see this come together. They got to stay healthy, and they got to keep taking steps with the defense to prove that they're going to be. And Tank scared the hell out of me last night when he was laying grabbing his foot there. So a lot going on. But I'm with you, General, says Mitty in Irving. Leave Tyron as swing tackle, says the 940. 302. Beat the Rams on the road, and we'll talk about it. I hear you. This is exactly what we said in Dak's rookie year 2016. They had to go to Lambeau and Heinz Field. Yeah. And we said, Dak, he ain't going to be able to do that. He went there and won, because the formula of running the ball is such a change-up. Most defenses are preparing for speed in the passing game, and when you show up and bludgeon the hell out of them, they're not ready for it. And again, I don't think it carries the day in the NFC title game or the Super Bowl, but I'm starting to think maybe this is a team to break through and actually give you multiple playoff victories in the same season. You're delusional, Gavin, says the 817. Gaslighting Gavin strikes again, says the 210. I'm with you, General, says the 972 Beast of the East. I don't know if they're going to catch the Eagles.
Yeah, the Eagles are going to be tough because they're building the same way you are then. Their quarterback's playing well. Their team is very healthy right now, if I'm following it right. I don't think there's anything majorly wrong. They usually struggle with offensive lineman injuries at times.
So far, so good for them.
Their skill guys are playing very, very well for them. It's not the Nelson Aguilars and guys like that they've run out there in the past. They went out there and got real skill guys.
Yeah, A.J. Brown's been great. Devontae Smith had a hell of a game for him last week.
Legitimate tight end. This thing, it's going to be a fight between you and the Eagles at this thing. And like I said, you're surviving right now. You're surviving with a backup quarterback, backup, guys at certain positions, but your defense, you just don't need anything to happen to Micah Parsons. Even though that Micah Parsons, I don't think he played his best game last night, because everybody else pulled up around him and did a good job.
But it's still very impactful, just his presence out there, and he's still wreaked a little bit of havoc.
Please don't get so wore down that you can't, that's troubling in the weekends and stuff like that.
But I think that they showed you that they've got enough talent and depth on that side of the football to where if they need to take a little bit of load off of him, they can at times, and they can be okay.
I think versus the Giants, you can. Yeah. That's the one thing you have to consider. The defense
but they'll play the Giants again. They'll play Washington twice. You've got some games where, you can go ahead if you need to give Micah a break at times throughout some games. You have the ability to do that. I mean, you've got guys. Fowler had a great game against Cincinnati. Armstrong stepped up big for you. Tank just had 3 sacks, and he should have had 5. This defense is damn good. And we talk a lot about offensive football. Quite frankly, we focus too much on this show today on the wrong side of the ball. This team's winning because of the defense. It's great what Cooper Rush has done. The defense is what's carrying this football team.
Yeah. And Tampa's offense isn't strong, so I think you need the defense to go on for another 3 or 4 weeks before we can talk about them. But I mean, you mentioned all the names.
They've allowed 3 touchdowns in 3 games.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It is. It is. And I think that's a formula that could really hold up as long as you don't turn the ball over at quarterback, and it's tough. 254 haters are negative. You're right. Defense and running game sounds like a great recipe. Kellen Moore's the problem, says the 682. Wait till Dak is back and see the play calling go right back to bleep.
Why would you say that? Why would you think that why would the play calling go to bleep? I'm just asking a question. If you've seen how it's working or how it can work, why wouldn't you not try that with that? I think I don't think they're doing anything differently. I really don't. The play calling to me is about they run.
It was more play action than in any game last year.
Dak is one of the if you and I'm not the analytics guy. Everybody in this room knows more about numbers than me. Dak, one of the best play action quarterbacks in the league in last year. I think he was top 5.
Yes, last year he was.
But see, I think they're doing it a different way. I think that's what when I'm talking about turn your back to the defense.
It does seem that it's a lot more shotgun with Dak.
That's what I'm saying. Get back to putting him under center, and then if you want to see, just keep your eyes focused on Dak and how many times he's under center and how many times they run play action with him under center, as opposed to what you see with Cooper Rush. That could be the big difference right now. Yeah. I don't think there's going to be like people are saying. I think Kellen Moore's calling the same plays. I just think it's where he's got Dak in the positioning of like whether it's shotgun or under center. I don't think he has him under center enough. I don't think that shotgun to me doesn't affect the defense like putting a quarterback under center does.
Putting it in his belly and pretending is not the same.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we seen Aaron Rodgers take a snap and he pulls the ball, he puts it like on his his side and the fake, and he makes that hard fake, and everybody's collapsing, and then they throw the ball over the top. That's what you're seeing right now with Cooper Rush. You're seeing like under center the other night, he faked it to nobody. He just put his hand out, and there was nobody there, and they threw the ball.
Well, the running game has been there, though. I think and that's a big difference to know it's successful now when Dak comes back and it's something you can lean on more. I think adding Tyler Smith, a big, strong athlete, has given you 2 guys there that you can really have an opportunity to blow people away. And when Peters is in there and Tyron Smith is in there now, you're going to have 4 guys that give you the opportunity to absolutely manhandle. And, last year we were old and broken down or young and weak.
Yeah.
Now, adding Tyler Smith, young, big stud, gives you 1 other point to run from. We're going to double that. We're going to add 2 more on top of that with Peters and Tyron Smith. Maybe I'm getting too far ahead of myself. I see consistent run dominance by the time we get to the playoffs.
I'm not making light or fun of anything. Let's see about Tyron Smith coming back, though.
Yeah.
Let's see. Now, there's people over there that have told me, like, hey, Brian, keep an eye, but let's see. Let's see.
He'll get back. He just might not stay healthy for long.
Yeah, and who knows what the condition is of the offensive line physically by the time we get to that point. Like, it's the assumption that no other injuries are going to take place.
Tyler Smith has played so well, it's forced Jason Peters to play guard.
Yeah.
That's what that's all about.
Yeah, Jerry said this morning they weren't planning on that.
Yeah.
They just found out they could.
Yeah.
And to the under center stuff, I think there's another element to that too, where when you're under center and especially you're packaging your personnel in a way that shows like, hey, I'm telling you I'm going to run the ball here because I have 2 or 3 tight ends on the field. And so the defense is thinking run all the way. Okay, they're under center, single back. They got 2-3 tight ends. You are selling everything run. And then also the timing of it where it's 1st and 10. So that's all the stuff as well that adds to it. And when you're in shotgun, oftentimes you're not in
the ball's
you're
running
not in
sideways.
12 or 13 personnel.
Yeah.
So you're giving off the idea that you're probably passing the ball anyways.
Right.
But when you're under center and you got all these tight ends on the field, as a defense, you're going, okay, they're probably getting a run here. And then boom, here it is, 1st and 10, play action, 2 guys in a route. And it's just easy money every single time. And to be fair, the Giants, and I don't have the numbers to back it up, but just watching them versus Carolina, it was very obvious. This is a team that you can go play action on all day long, and they're going to bite on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it paid off in a big way last night, and now the Cowboys have jumped 8 spots in the NFL.com power rankings. They jumped from 21 to 13th. Are you buying this as this is where they should be? What do you think their high point is for the year as you look forward in your Cowboys crystal ball?
How many playoff teams?
14.
14?
Yeah, 14.
See him right there in that zone?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of the NFC wildcard teams right now is, I think, their destiny.
Yeah, well, when you see...
I think 8 could be the high point.
The West doesn't scare you with anybody out there, right? NFC West? I mean, who scares you out there?
The Rams and the Niners.
Okay.
Just based on
if
how
they play
last
up to
year went.
potential, sure.
I'm worried about the Niners a little bit now.
Yeah.
I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo comes in, and last week, what do? They look terrible.
They did.
They look terrible at Denver.
They can be a Jekyll and Hyde team, but the second they get hot, that's the thing with the Niners. Yeah. I mean, last year, the first half of the season, people were talking about firing Kyle Shanahan.
I think they were 5-7.
Yeah, and then they end up making the playoffs.
New Orleans, I'm just thinking of teams. I'm thinking of the extra teams that if
I think Tampa Bay.
If a division puts 3 in,
Yes.
There's not one of those divisions.
No, I think Tampa Bay, when they get their receivers back, they're going to be good. I mean, their defense is really good. Green Bay's always going to give us Cowboy fans a heart attack because of Aaron Rodgers. Always. I don't care how good or bad you think they are. You're scared of the Packers.
I think you're better than the Vikings.
Agreed.
I think you're better than the Lions.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did want to point this out. 538 going into last night's game, or going into week 3 in general, 538 gave the Cowboys a 38% chance of making the playoffs. And now, after last night's victory, they're up to 58%.
Okay, wow, that is very interesting. That's quite a boost. Yeah, but
This is
proved
exciting
it.
to talk about, and I love your optimism.
Thank you. Yeah, and you know what? Now they're now favored to beat Washington.
Don't need to do much to sell me.
I
mean,
tell
I'm
you
ready
what,
to jump on that bandwagon, baby.
I got my finger on the pulse of this team. I'm 3-0 now.
You are
3-0.
Yeah,
you are.
And sure. I know I can be cynical about this team, and you're probably like, well, I thought you were all down. I'm only down on the fact they're going to lose in the playoffs most likely. If you listen to what I say it's going to be a fun year. We're going to win regular season games, and then your lack of a difference-making quarterback once you get to the playoffs. And I think so many people get triggered by me saying that about Dak.
Yeah.
But that's what he's been for the last 10 games he's gone out there. And even last year when they started hot, if you go inside of his numbers, he wasn't putting up eye-popping efficiency things. They did accumulate a ton of stuff, and I know the stat argument's going to come in, but listen, stats in the NFL right now are a lot of fun, but they're still very much in their infancy when it comes to separating the credit offensively. Who gets credit for a big passing offense? And you see it assigned to like quarterback expected points added. It's not accurate. And they can't control for how good the defenses are when they try to say, well, this is adjusted for the schedule and we have this guy's the best quarter. It'll kind of get you in the ballpark, and then you still very, very much need your eyeballs. And if you look at stats and it doesn't match with what your eyes and your brain were telling you while you're watching the game, it shouldn't be a time for you to second guess everything your eyes and brain told you. It should be an understanding that the analytics came to football last. And it's very, very difficult to quantify this stuff. Like, professionals that spend 4 decades scouting college players can't tell if a quarterback is good if he's at Bama because he knows the offensive line and wide receivers are loaded. They're like, well, maybe he's good, right? And they draft him in the top 10, or maybe they let him go in the second round of the Eagles because they just don't know, So, it's not a problem if what you think about a quarterback has to change in a very significant way. So I'm not trying to go after Dak. Again, Dak is my most favorite player in all of the NFL, the most likable guy in all of the NFL. I'm pulling for him to be successful more than anybody else. But the limitations are starting to become clear, and I tip my hat to the team if privately they've acknowledged, boys, we got to get back to playing great defense and running the ball until we find the next Hall of Fame quarterback. And under Mike McCarthy, it sure does appear that is the philosophy of how we're going to win multiple playoff games.